Hello, today's Wednesday, July the 8th. We are still in Colossians chapter 4 as we're bringing Paul's letter to the church at Colossae to a conclusion. Paul's doing so by mentioning his companions. We're going to look at two of them today. They're both in verse 10. Aristarchus, my fellow prisoner, greets you, with Mark, the cousin of Barnabas, about whom you received instructions, if he comes to you, and welcome him. Aristarchus was a Jewish person, but with a Greek name. He was from Thessalonica. And he had met Paul during Paul's ministry in Ephesus. And he was so closely associated with him that when they had the riots there, they identified Aristarchus as one of his companions and seized him as well, which could be what Paul means when he says, my fellow prisoner. But more than likely, it's because Aristarchus followed Paul to Jerusalem and to Rome and is with Paul in Rome. That Aristarchus had associated with Paul in such a way, he wanted to be where Paul was. He wanted to encourage Paul and help Paul and assist Paul, and was not afraid to identify himself with Paul when Paul was in prison. So he calls him my fellow prisoner. And then with Mark. Now, you know Mark is John Mark. He's the cousin of Barnabas, who was on the first missionary journey with Barnabas and Paul. And when things got really difficult, Mark had fled. He had abandoned them. And Paul had lost his trust in them. And it got so difficult that Paul eventually left with Silas, and Barnabas left the fellowship. But those problems had been resolved by this time, and Mark was back in not only as a trusted ally of Paul, but somebody upon whom Paul depended. As he writes to Timothy later, please bring Mark with you. So with Mark, the cousin of Barnabas, and he says to the church at Colossae, about whom you've received instructions. In other words, you all know of Mark's failing, that he left us earlier in our journeys, but that's been repaired, that's been restored. He's a trusted servant now. Welcome him. So as somebody as dogmatic and firm and stern as Paul appears to be in his writings and in traditional understanding, Paul was a man who offered restoration and reconciliation to anyone who would repent, who'd be willing to change. So we have Tychicus, this faithful, loving servant, Onesimus, the restored runaway slave, Aristarchus, this man who bonded himself to Paul, and now Mark, a young man who had grown into a person of mature faith. I wonder, as you look at your own life, are you one of those four? Or maybe you're one of the other men that will be mentioned here in a few days. But we can thank God that the family of God embraces everybody, failures and those who succeed alike, people of character and people of weakness, because in Christ we're all made new. Let's pray. Heavenly Father, thank you for this beautiful day. We thank you for the privilege to be your children, and we thank you that even when we failed, or maybe even failed miserably, that if we repent, change our behavior, we can still be used by you, that the door is always open for reconciliation. You can make us effective servants. May you bless each person who is pondering the principles and the encouragements of Colossians today. And may we all be like Mark, who boldly serves, even though in the past there's a glaring failure, that he puts that aside and serves you. Or like Aristarchus, who joins himself to Paul to help that man be a better servant. May we be willing to set aside our own aspirations to help somebody else be used by you. For we ask all these things in Jesus' name. Amen. Well, God bless you. Thanks for being part of our devotion today, and we'll see you again tomorrow.